Lovely people. Hope you can hear me loud and clear. Give me a heads up on the microphone if you can. Just confirm the audio because I'm just on laptop audio only at the moment. Been rushing around. So I'm going to give you today a prediction on the US election that affects all of us, unfortunately. The US election that affects all of us. This is going to be, in my worldview, via intent and design, the most acrimonious election ever to happen. The most acrimonious election ever to happen in US history. In other words, there's going to be a protracted aftermath post-election of acrimony. And for those that don't understand the word of acrimony, it is anger, disbelief, non-acceptance, rage, unrest, social upheaval, bad news central, chaos. And actual fact, it's going to make, in my opinion, potentially the doomsday porn that I say is a risk incoming. And if you hit a like, it's appreciated. It brings a few more people into the room, taking time out on Sunday to bring you some news, and it helps if we have a big audience. So I appreciate that. Encourages me to do it more often. So grab a like and a share just through Facebook or one of the others. Give us a tweet out. So it's going to be one of the most acrimonious. Overall, my personal impression is that it's going to be designed to be pretty close. There are going to be certain states that are won hands down on both sides, red and blue. But there's going to be a handful, certainly, of swing states which are going to be highly contentious. This is going to make the George W. Bush chads and was it really marked, all that garbage with Al Gore. That was a drill almost for the acrimony and the analysis and the navel gazing. And that was largely Florida, which had Jeb Bush at the time, hopefully delivering it for George W. as was expected. Only it turned much, much closer. And then there was all the, the aspects that kicked in, and they were asking, was this a good vote or a bad vote? Was it pushed through properly, et cetera, et cetera. So you had all these little names for, was a paper broken in the right place, in the right way, et cetera. That kind of minutia and nitpicking, it's going to actually not only be one state like it was in Florida. I think you're going to have a number of swing states. Also going to feature in this is the aspect that on physical turnout, I'm expecting most of those marginal states to just be Trump. And then there's going to be the mail voting element that's almost going to be amazingly universally Democrat and might just swing a marginally red state into a marginally blue. I've got to check which one's red and blue. I don't even know. I can't remember. I have to check the colors. I think it's the Democrats are blue and the reps are red, but I could be wrong. So there's going to be postal voting is going to come into this. There's going to be accusations of fraud, and there's going to be all sorts of things going on. So also want to highlight that people like Hillary Clinton have already come out and stated that under no circumstances should Biden, even if the count and the election officials have it that Trump has won all the key states and has won, should he stand down. So you're actually having people stating in the election that you shouldn't even abide by the rules. If we win, we accept it. If we don't get the outcome we're expecting, we're not accepting it. So there's going to be a lot of that. Losers denial, whichever the case may be. And this is going to, as I say, lead to rolling news feed that will bury the likes of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, why Wexner hasn't been arrested for being the billionaire funder for this Asian provocateur running a blackmail scam for Israel, on every major politician doing something they shouldn't be doing never mind the child trafficking and the industrialized underage sex of children. All of that is almost going to be buried under red versus blue politics. And I'm here to say, imagine a different game, because as much as I find the Bolshevik leftists absolutely reprehensible, neither are truly batting for you. Neither are truly batting for you. Imagine there's a 3D game, and the 3D game is you have to reveal what you're doing to the sheeple. In other words, we get Assange, Snowden, the Epstein, Maxwell files, all of this, so that a logical, fairly screwed on person could see that we're running a mafia here. You have to reveal what you're doing, and you have to do enough each time there's an election to get a minimum level of participation, voting red or blue, doesn't matter, so that they are voting for their eventual slavery and thinning of the herd. Because after all, they're stuffed full of eugenicists. You can proceed with everything you want to do, all your devious insider cartel agendas. The rules of the 3D chess game is there are certain elements of reveal that come out. So the game can be known by those not cowardly and in Stockholm syndrome. And the game can continue providing you get a minimum participation in elections. And the problem we have with this red versus blue, Democrats versus Republicans, is that there will be high participation because they have so successfully polarized the nation that the people who will vote Republican will definitely vote because they find the Black Lives Matter, the Democrats' conduct, the likes of Nancy Pelosi, so reprehensible and loathsome. And the Democrats' side will vote because they find Trump and some of his inane, inaccurate tweeting and his kind of dumb fuckery so absolutely insulting that both sides have been suitably provoked for them to secure their mandate. And their mandate is their agenda of your slavery. My main goal is, imagine those are the rules and you all stood down and you didn't vote. And I know for so many people that's so hard. They're thinking, how can you not vote? Then Biden gets in and this happens. Or how can you not vote? Then Trump stays in and all of this. And neither matters. What they've actually got is a leftist, extremist, Bolshevik, out-and-out communist clan that they're using as scare mechanism to get people to vote for a lesser evil, to many conservative small government people. And to many Democrats, they've got this reprehensible orange man bad moron who makes funny utterings, questions science, does this, shoots from the hip, doesn't really know what he's saying, misnomers, not really officially of the political class. He's totally the political class. He's totally a control structure figure that they all think is beneath them in intellect and they just want to bury. And the real thing is not to participate in the charade, but they have polarized it so broadly and so viciously and so successfully. I mean, they played a blinder. I'm suspecting that this will be one of the most participated election. And the key thing is that secures the control structure, the mandate. You voted for where we're taking you. You participated in the game. The one thing where if everyone stood down and they had an incredibly thin show-up rate would shake to the core the agendas of everything, the non-participation of the sheeple. They will get everybody to play. So my prediction is actually, probably in terms of show-up votes, Trump wins, in my worldview. Trump wins. Exceedingly close, exceedingly acrimoniously. And then there might be certain states where ballot votes arrive late, arrive early, are under question, weren't under lock and key. Some degree of fraud is suspected. These turn out to be swing votes that might swing a core state that is incredibly tight in favor of the Democrats, that a second count that take them as legit means actually the Democrats won the seats for that, therefore Biden wins, and that there will be a backwards and forwards. So the prediction is less about who actually wins. It's the fact that it will be deemed essentially close on a number of swing states. Certain dominant states will remain dominant for their various parties, but there will be swing states for which will be so narrow and so close that there will be all sorts of lawyers swamping in there, officials, bipartisan, partisan parties all arriving and saying, I saw him do that, this has happened, we've seen this, what's going on here, maybe some dark state actors seen coming in and out of and unloading loads of pre-ticked boxes in mail ballots, lots of obvious signs of possible fraud intentionally revealed to you so that you, whatever the outcome is, you have this uncomfortable feeling that something untoward has occurred. So actually, this election is rather to settle a matter and make it a closed and shut case. It's to make it feel as unsettled an outcome as could be, regardless which camp you sit in. So regardless what camp you sit in, if you win, you won't care. But whoever's the loser or deemed the loser in a specific state will feel that something untoward has gone on both sides. And this will lead to, if Trump is declared a winner after a whole bunch of decisions are made on the fly, a next level social unrest from the likes of the Antifas and Black Lives Matter. In other words, I think they've been drilling, enabling these riot groups. It's incredibly ironic to see in Australia a pregnant woman who's a member arranging a Facebook protest against masks, having warranted cops kick down her door and take her into arrest and take her devices and computers. And another guy similar in Australia. And at the same time, Antifa and Black Lives Matter organizing riotous groups that are disrupting restaurants, turning tables over where people are eating, and various other things actually be supported. So there's actually certain actors and riots that are the official government-controlled opposition riots that are arguing they are anti-system, but are actually part of the government actors of anti-system. By that, you can call it George Soros funded, Open Society funded, Marxist groups like Black Lives Matter. And then you can have real people that actually are questioning the official government narrative, that are truly showing some degree of critical thinking, and they are being slammed down super, super hard. So this is the craziness that we find ourselves in. What they need to do is they need to isolate Trump for one of the most lame duck second term presidencies that have ever happened, with one of the most questionable, acrimonious, contested outcome, which will make all previous notions, and I refer to the George W. Bush, Al Gore runoff as one, and the difference will be the Democrat candidate will not stand down. You'll go into a stalemate for a sustained period. In other words, Biden will be told, if he's deemed to be lost, to not stand down. If Biden is deemed a winner, and I'm inaccurate here, and the mail ballots say swing it for the Democrats, Trump will call fraud and he'll refuse to stand down claiming victory. You're actually probably going to have a set of events that could see both parties claim victory, which will be absurd and will be that typical non-satisfactory, okay, we can put an end to this argy-bargy. In other words, the revolutionary fervor that they've created in this drill has to escalate, not be settled. There can't be a clear-cut winner. There will not be a clear-cut, hands-down winner. And even if there was anything that came closely to resemble that, the other party will not accept it and will have a narrative to counter that. Fraud, corruption, bad counting, electronic votes that were done incorrectly, machines never worked, mail votes that weren't counted, mail votes that were counted that shouldn't have been counted. you name it. Every narrative is going to come out. And this is the game. So the whole point is we're in a cycle of problem, reaction, solution, and they need to escalate the problem. The whole notion that capitalism doesn't work, we don't have capitalism, we have cronyism. The whole notion that democracy needs to be refreshed, in other words, system renew, system reset. Everything has to tie into the World Economic Forum. And I want to make this statement, by the way. We on our logo had the reset in our logo for the last 13 years. I spoke of the reset and we incorporated it in our logo as a third part. I've seen so many marketeers and so many new little businesses all bandwagon jumping that don't do a full job and fully recognize the fact that we are going through an entire systemic control structure orchestrated reset. And they're just jumping on the bandwagon now that they've seen the World Economic Forum go and call my exact phrase, the Great Reset, that I've referred countless times. And you can see my YouTube channel for 3 or 4 years, talking of the Great Reset when most people weren't even believing that anything was coming. And I sounded like some doomsday porn merchant. And now I'm seeing reset. It doesn't even feel like my own now. It just feels like I'm one of a big crowd of people. The word reset is commonplace. It's being heard all the time. No one used it economically, ever, 10 years ago. Now it's being bandied around and the control structure themselves are using it. And now marketeers who follow the UN and the control structure are all incorporating it into all their various product offerings. So this is telling you that the predictions we've been making, this key event is coming. So we need greater building of the volcano pressure for an eruption of discontent. And this is what's coming. Now, interestingly, there's Jim Reichardt's, and he's come up with his own theory. So I will share a little bit of the detail that he's sharing. Now, I'm seeing Reichardt's as a bit of a insider personally. I don't think you ever do work for the CIA and not be part of, or at least contractually in and out, dipping toes in and out of dark state. And I see him also as a bit of an American exceptionalist. So Russia's always the bad guy. Everyone else is the bad guy. America's intentions are always good. Rather than seeing the ill deeds of all control structures globally. So he plays the nationalist game and is patriotic. So in that sense, he goes more into the Trump camp. So I don't fully trust that he is giving a clean skin, just this is where I'm at intention. I think he has vested interests, but it's an interesting yardstick. So here's a couple of things he throws in. You might have missed it, what the riots, lockdowns, and other daily mayhem were forced to endure in this wretched year most wretched year of his lifetime, he says. He says this is what many people have missed. It started with the military brass indicating that the troops should not follow a presidential order. So he says with the predecessor of Obama's dual term, many stay out of politics and also small government conservative military men were removed, and that a lot of the top brass of the military post an Obama Democrat term. So he's a bit heavy Republican side. In my view, neither work for you. I just find one side more reprehensible by style. But for me, they are just the bush rustlers with a stick to get the birds to fly into the real coop and be caught. They are just the shepherding herd that should lose, that are so reprehensible that they make Trump almost look the lesser of two evils. And they are just herding people into the abattoir. But anyway, he says the culling of top military brass under 8 years of Democrat rule has a more sympathetic Democrat leadership now. And he said that one of the key messages that was made by the top military brass, that the Secretary of Defense as well himself has all but publicly told the president not to invoke the Insurrection Act. What does that mean? His implicit message by that is, Mr. President, don't tell us to do that because we won't. And you know what happens after that. In other words, if Trump declares a victory, but sufficient people declare it contentious and they declare a victory, the option of bringing in the military to enforce what the president said has been removed from the table. And in fact, by doing so will be counterproductive, because they'll say, we said we won't do it for you, and the fact that you'll order it and we won't do it means that we're now actively working against you, and therefore the net effect of that is we will end up being party to removing you. So this is coup talk. This is coup talk where he claims Joe Biden has been enthused by this, and Al Gore has even publicly agreed on the fact that even if Trump deems he's won, we will escort him from the White House with great dispatch, says Biden, for which Al Gore agrees. So they're actually going to do one of the color type revolutions, you know, the orange revolution, the velvet revolution of Czechoslovakia, that of Ukraine, etc. You're going to have a domestic color revolution. They'll probably give it a color. They'll probably call it the transgender pink revolution. I'm kidding about that one. The rainbow LGBTQI black and brown flag revolution, or the God knows whatever Kissinger throws his dart at that morning as the Lieutenant General in Chief for the Soros Rockefeller Rothschild agenda. But there's going to be some form of color revolution where it won't matter how people decide the election got decided. The people that have the greatest gravitas in a highly contentious environment that will have the support of the military top brass will be the one that decides who is forced out or is brought in or is not forced out. So over the summer, a story is deliberately leaked to the press at a meeting. 100 Democratic grandees and anti-Trump former Republicans got together, funded by George Soros. Soros's name keeps coming up. This is Jim Reichardt mentioning him, not me. So I'm just third-partying on, he's bringing this funder into the frame. And he's very public about his resentment for Trump, Soros, and he's clearly directing funds, ill-gotten funds from various insider trading, which he'll never stand cost for, but nonetheless, one such outcome was a clear Trump win. So these Democrats got together with disenchanted Republicans and did a gaming. This is what Reichardt has got involved in himself, a war games drill on what we do in every scenario. So they actually are planning reaction, counter-reaction, as they did the scamdemic in the Agenda 201, where they said, oh, fake news will come out very quickly, it's not true, therefore we must compress this. This is why Facebook is banning all your posts, and they've got these 7 Politico Snopes and all these fake fact checkers all finding for the World Health Organization. In the same way, they're going to have, they were pre-prepped. It was a drill. And anything that counters the narrative is fake news. And they will have websites and fact checkers that are politicized and pro-agenda that will then find everything that's found. Very quickly, there'll be a debunking within an hour that a major narrative gets traction. Podesta participated, former Bill Clinton White House Chief of Staff, and of course Obama as well, and all of those that have ever delved into Pizzagate and pedophilia, a la Epstein and Ping Pong Pizza, etc. Playing Biden, refused to concede in the drill. Pressurized states that Trump won to send Democrats to the former Electoral College vote. In other words, just to pretend like you won it and send your people. And then trust that the military, who you've now secured as being on your side, take care of the rest. This is a coup option. This is a coup option, guys. The leaked report of this exercise darkly concluded that technocratic solutions, courts, and reliance on elites observing norms are not the answer here. We may have to turn it into a street fight, not a legal battle. So this is, you've lost the cricket match and you just go and punch the opposing captain and turn it into a brawl and reduce the entire match to a non-event due to everything breaking up, or rugby game. Turns into a brawl, time is not finished, it descends and is cancelled. Essentially, nobody won or lost. You can just reduce everything to the lowest common denominator of basically a riot, a street fight. Two more data points that came out of that over the summer were two former army officers, both prominently Democrat nationally aligned, and part of a national security think tank, wrote an open letter to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Yes? A chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is essentially the chairman of the board that oversees the army, in which they urged him to deploy the 82nd Airborne Division to drag President Trump from the Oval Office. So this is, they've already drilled removing him. Imagine what will happen if you have a leftist government move in. This is Jim Reichard's scenario. And they physically remove him with a lot of the patriots and conservatives thinking that he's won. And then the leftist goes for a full mask mandatory, weapons taken off patriots, and you have full-blown dissension. They go full-blown Bolshevik commie. It's also an option. It could happen. I think they crash the economy and various other things and bring in the electronic money on Trump, because they need him to be a two-termer. They're comfortable with having him in there. They're lazy when they have a control structure, figurehead, PR person playing president. They like working with somebody they've got used to work with. They get the full year's 8 out of them. We haven't had a 4-year termer in a long time. It's laziness. Plus, they want him to go out in absolute acrimony that a white male conservative almost is unelectable again, because there is a massive anti-white agenda at the moment coming out of the left wing, particularly. Anti-conservative as well. So if you're a black conservative and you want small government, you want the right to own arms, they're anti-you too. So it's not purely race, but race politics is going to play a huge part. Race, you can't see the end of race. Everything comes down to race. It is so boring. It is absolutely so boring. It's like I've never met somebody that I just can't like him for who he is in his character and how he comes across. You know, I've met people of all variations that I've liked, and I've met people of all variations that conduct themselves in a way I'm less comfortable with. And everything has to be reduced to this one factor. So race, race, and race. It's going to go run, run, and run. Because it's one of the most divisive things, and it helps when you're getting a useful idiots mob, keeps them fueled up with rage. Moral indignance and slighted. Multi-generational moral indignance and slight. As if your life would have been better, whether you're in the Congo all this time, or whether you've grown up as an American. So there's Hillary Clinton declared publicly that Joe Biden should not concede the election under any circumstances. So there's actually statements that have been made prior to the election that show it's not one they're prepared to lose even if they lose. In other words, the setup is, if we win, we win. If we lose, it's a brawl. We don't lose. It's just a brawl. It's a 15-man on 15-man brawl. In Americans, you'll have the ice hockey equivalent. Reduce it to just a brawl. And that's why you're seeing these references to street fighting, etc. So there is a commonality to my scenario and to Reichard's scenario. Although Reichard's gone the whole hog on calling coup, and he's identified that military might be co-opted to be more leftist. It's a bit of a hard sell, because generally the military is center-right, rather than left. But if you've got the head of the snake and soldiers follow orders, I mean, I've seen soldiers in Democrat states with American pro-Trump flags, apparently. So there's a lot of people in the military that are pretty pissed off with the rioting and what's going on. And I would imagine there's a lot of people in the police that are pretty pissed off. So there's a cover-up in plain sight potentially coming. How do you say, under any circumstances? Any means none, nada, zilch, fokol in Afrikaans, or although I won't entirely translate that one. So if that's to happen, it's going to be, it's almost a leftist, he's putting forward a leftist conspiracy, which will see Biden not concede under any circumstances. The second part of the plan is to produce enough harvested ballots, aka fake ones, lawfully or not, to tip or enclose the states, the marginal states, in one particular direction, or dispute the results and enclose states and insist, no matter what the tally says, that Biden won them. So just say, we won. No, but the numbers don't say that you won. No, we won it. No, but this is a stat. Yeah, but you didn't count this, you didn't count that. There's missing votes. We won. We know we won. What do you say? You reduce everything to a brawl where there is not enough power to the overall officiator of what has happened. Okay. Podesta's assumption in the military will side with the Dems. There are reasons to fear they might, says Rykards. The Obama administration spent a great deal of political capital purging the officer corps of anyone not down with the program and promoting who they are. So they'll play it. It's Obama that helped. By the way, Jeffrey Goldberg, in his recent Atlantic essay. So the Atlantic falls under the Atlantic group, the Atlantic publication. That is very specifically and directly controlled by Kissinger. So when all the social media, same minute, same day, from Pinterest, YouTube, Twitter, all took Alex Jones off, that was universal. That wasn't corporates making decisions. That was all controlled by Kissinger through the Atlantic group. The social medias report into the Atlantic group, and there is actually a publication called Atlantic. And Goldberg wrote this essay in Atlantic, and you can go search for it. Can the Dems rely on the Secret Service to drag Trump out? Well, many will say that through this Russian saga and all of that, there seems to be a lot of Secret Service people that haven't been for Trump. So he's playing the left versus right and keeping you, Rykards, thinking that one side's the good side and the other side's the wholly bad. As I say, they're both tentacles of the same octopus, and they're to herd you in one direction, thinking you can escape from the other by going with the other one. Neither are for you. And I remind everybody that Rockefeller bailed Trump out of his failed casinos as little boy rich kid who was caught properly, handed huge losses, and carried him through the property cycle in America with a bottomless overdraft. And you don't get that for nothing. Neither do you get your own TV show for nothing and get made into a cult, straight-talking hero that later can run for president. So a repeat of the summer, only much bigger. A street fight. Crank the propaganda to eardrum-shattering decibels. Fill the street of every major city with protesters. So this is going to take a lot of capital. Shut down the country and allow only one message to be heard. Trump must go. Now, if Trump gets cut from the airwaves and cannot talk to the citizens because the media, remember, this is wholly controlled by a very small bunch of people, all of a certain ethnicity, the entire media machine, you actually don't allow the president, much as that happened in Ukraine, to address his own people. His voice is removed. He's just a lonely man stuck in an office asserting he's still in power. Well, your color revolution comes. Your color revolution comes. Oust him, a la Belarus, going on now. This is a guy who called shit BS on pandemic and COVID-19. Funny that he's one of ones being thrown out. Ukraine, you've seen it all. And what they're trying to do in Iran, what they did in Iraq, cut the access to the citizenry. Saddam Hussein was hiding in a hole in the ground in his own country. He didn't have airways, he didn't have internet, he didn't have media, he didn't have stream. You lose your power when your contact and message can't get to your base. So they're already going to do big tech is not pro-Trump. Trump has lost. Trump has lost. No, forget all that stuff. We're saying Trump has lost. Obviously, this counts more than that. Trump has lost. He can't talk. Everybody else saying he's lost. The only messages you hear is he's lost. You get forced to accept the inevitable. The severage of the line. That is Rijkaard's message. I think it seems like a call to arms for the right to hustle the right out to vote. I think Trump is a very useful person to carry the can of the Great Reset, which will cause great pain, as in the problem, reaction, solution. And they want him and his profile that he represents. Apparently, is my profile. You know, if you're white, male, and want small government, and believe in some degree of law and order, but not draconian privacy invasion and bad science, he's your avatar. They want to destroy that avatar so that you never get people like me in again, and they can put in a litany of guys like the New York mayor and various other people like Kamala Harris, etc., etc. So that's my election scenario cast. My initial personal feeling is that he wins and they need him for a second term to take that acrimony down, which will be hotly disputed, hotly contested, rioting in the streets, army divided, reaction muted, and lots of destruction. So there's going to be lots of SME destruction, particularly, and some big corporates like Nike will still be raided again, sneakers stolen, fires lit. Cops will end up shooting more people as a natural result, which will form a self-feedback loop. Because if you start to have extreme riots of great scale, more organized with arms now, shooting, you're going to have armed response. So this is going to bring in the army. This is going to bring in that. Rijkaard says the army isn't for the right, that they've got a leftist head in the snake, and that Trump will be carried out. As I say, I differ, and I question where it comes from, but it's an interesting scenario. So I listen, I see if there's anything you can add, any information. It's very interesting that they've already been signaling, the Democrats, if it's not what they want, they won't accept the outcome. So it's a bit like we have a football match, but we don't agree what a goal is. You know, me just crossing into the halfway line, I can assert it's a goal, and therefore my team won, even though you think you won 4-0. I said, but yeah, but we got the ball and we crossed, that counts as a, you know, so it's almost like the rules don't apply. Okay, let's see a couple of comments, because then I want to talk about a totally different topic before we jump in that. Well, the right is well armed, Logan. The right will wipe the left in 2 weeks. The problem, though, is where do the military and the police end up? The police aren't going to be particularly friendly towards the rioting class. So there might be more riots, but it's the army and who leads them that might end up dictating a lot of that. I think it will be forced legal by media. It needs to be legal, says Saggy Dogs. I think there'll be legal contesting. And thinking laws will, in various states, at local state level, there'll be contesting of outcomes. Where one says it should be red, the other one, another state says that one should have been blue, and it'll be confusing because of if that, then that. So the whole thing is not to bring clarity, but to bring chaos and further confusion. So that there is no sense of really knowing who should have won on either side. In other words, who knows if it's kind of like you do a DNA test to find out who your father is, and it could be either. You know, you don't get any clarity. It's just, you're no better off. In fact, it causes more discontent. Yeah. Okay. So here's something else I want to talk to you about. So I talk a lot about the dark side of the tech giants and how they are absolutely implicitly should be viewed as the same. So intelligence services, tech oligarchical billionaires, government should all be viewed the same and are cooperating transnationally. You should view the CIA as Mossad as easily as you view Musk as part of a control structure, as Bezos part of a control structure, as the military industrial complex as one of the weapons of the control structure. So the whole notion that there's truly at the top these segregated silos that are independent of thought is nonsense. At the highest level, those that really have the extreme wealth know the agenda. I don't know how many of you know, but Bezos invested 250 grand in Google many years ago, many years ago. It's worth 4.8 billion today. So part of Bezos's multi-billion wealth is the fact that he put $250,000, which is actually not a particularly high amount of money. If I had a very strong view on a particular equity that someone could convince me and I was part of a club or cartel, there are a lot of people that can put, if they have high confidence, 250,000 into an equity. So they are cross-invested in each other. And here's the thing that's coming. So while we're talking Bezos and Amazon, I'm going to segue into, everybody thinks big data is now a big thing and it's already happened. Big data hasn't even started. Big data is monumental, zettabyte huge. So a zettabyte is 1,000 exabytes, which is 1,000 billion terabytes. The big data is coming, and this is where 5G comes in. 5G will take all these small interlocking internet waves that are all around you that will start having sensors and passing data backwards and forwards from your kettle to your fridge inside your home. So we've gone from the big wave that travels far to much more intensified short wave that will be passing data from everywhere. Tesla's been collecting data from its driverless cars. Most people are using it. They go onto the on-ramp, they go on the highway, the driverless car drives the highway, and then they're driving the off-ramp again. It's been collecting data, and it's collecting all the time. Cameras, sensors, everything. The amounts of terabytes of data that is being collected just on driverless cars is huge. And then you have AI and machine learning. This data is analyzed and improvised and perfected. Now you're getting gamer consoles for truck drivers who are actually driving tens of hundreds of trucks. And the automated car, the truck is being genuinely driven by the AI, and that just really difficult bits are just being done by the driver, and the data is being captured and analyzed. So in future, even reversing with 2 cargo trailers on, or 1, depending on the circumstance, and doing a really specific maneuver is being captured, learned, sensorized, multiple points of sensors, internet communicated, camera measured, and the data is collated. So everything is being captured. So that you're going down to one guy who can actually control, and he has like all these screens and a car, and he actually does the reversing remotely, only because 5G is coming. This is what's coming soon, and it's already being tested. 5G is coming, which will pass fast enough, because it's going to be 100 times quicker on general than 4G, and most of you are not getting the full 4G speed. While 5G will be even more reliable because it's going to be so dense and so short time frame. So I'm talking about the positives now. I'm not getting into the health and aspects about that. There's so many people that have covered the negative elements of this. So I'm just telling you where we're being taken without putting a good or bad on that. There's plenty of bad, and there's even some good. So I'm going to focus on some good, because often I'm doomsday stuff, privacy and secrecy. So while we're talking Amazon and Bezos and all of this, Amazon released a device, no screen, that's very small on your wrist, that captures everything the watch does, the Apple Watch, and more. Captures everything the Apple Watch does and more of health. So heart rates, sweat, everything. This is generating so much data. And instead of having a screen, it comes in much, much cheaper. So where an iPhone watch costs $399, this costs $39. So it's just a sensor, no screen. But it will beam the data to your device. So you'll have a device and you'll get much better screen, all that you want from this device. And this is smart. Unfortunately for Apple, this is very, very smart, because the insurance companies that want to know your data and will give you lower insurance will start to pay for these devices, and they'd rather pay for a $39 device then they're going to pay for a $399 device. So where you have toys and screens and listen and push the buttons, actually the ones that will be funded, the mass market ones that will go fast, and all of this is data. So this is coming in health. This is what's coming in health alone, not automated driving. There's so many different spaces, and this is the Internet of Things. This is running your electricity, smart grid carefully. When you run your distillers, at what time is your electricity the cheapest? When your solar panels are generating the most heat, that you have surplus, that you can do high electric things. All of these efficiencies are all coming. And they're all coming through Internet of Things, and 5G is the pathway through which all this data can be moved around quick enough to be relevant and dense enough to have higher reliability than 4G, where you often get breakages and outages. The smaller wave means much less dropping, as well as much higher speed, but it means much more clutter of this radio wave activity. So what's going on here is I'm going to talk about the health element. So they've sequenced the DNA genome some time back. To get it done, the first time they did it, the overall cost was $100 million. That cost today has come right down to sub $1,000. And why is that interesting to us? Well, sequencing your DNA genome means you can be studied for that which you are more likely to get as illnesses. So if you have an ailment, but it's continually, misdiagnosis is the third biggest killer, by the way, outside of cancer and heart attacks. Being treated in the incorrect way for the wrong thing is the third biggest killer. Now, this is life extension and longevity related. You might have, we all have a very unique, to the individual, that makes DNA absolutely perfectly unique. No one has my DNA, no one has yours. And there's biotech that's now out there, which will re-engineer and change your DNA. So where you might have a mutation, your immune system can be provoked with certain external supports that will lead to DNA adjustment on your DNA. Now, this is hugely going to extend lifetimes. But this is where everything comes, and this comes with this great reset and the depopulation agenda. As this is getting cheaper and more commoditized, and more people will be able to get it, and the treatments and the editing can change your DNA permanently so that you no longer have that propensity to. Angelina Jolie actually had both boobs cut off because she had her DNA done. She's one of the early stars that paid the higher prices when the cost was still coming down for breast cancer. And they assessed the probability was significantly high that it was worth a while. Both off, chop, chop, not even going to risk it. There are people that are not yet sick and don't have symptoms that can be this is like pre-crime in the Pelican report, I think it was, or was it the Tom Cruise anyway? It wasn't the Pelican, the pre-crime where he's being chased for committing a murder is not yet done. You can, Minority Report, thank you. A prompt from the left wing has given me the name. Minority Report. In some senses, at a medical level, you can pre-diagnose your future fatal disease, and you can then edit that. So what ends up happening, Angelina Jolie is a man, by the way. I've heard that one before. I'm not sure. I'm not going to host a view. She's done a pretty convincing job of womanhood so far. But anyway, you've broken a few guys' hearts with that. But anyway, I remember thinking she was crazy for that. That was like an overreaction and all of that. But now I'm seeing the genome DNA sequencing thing is coming down, and these people are into it in a big way. Now, the problem is, if you want a smaller world, why are they rushing towards a depopulation agenda if COVID-19 is such a thing? If the virus or the vaccines are all going to be leading towards such a thing? If we're going to hurtle towards this revolution in America, you're going to have commoditized, potentially, massive life extension. Who do you think is going to get that? These guys aren't wanting to save Africans and Indians' lives where the Gates Foundation has been doing guinea pig testing. Let me tell you that. So this is also ties in to why there might be an accelerated desire towards advancing the depopulation agenda, because the science is actually coming that is incredibly life lengthening. And it's not just, I don't really care for significantly more years. I just want significant better quality years rather than, I don't mind, I would like to live longer, sure. But I don't want to live longer as a decrepit, bent, broken, in pain man, disease riddled. I do want more quality years without pain and discomfort. And I'm highly interested in that. If someone can, tell me what's the genome that's causing me back pain, what's doing this, what's fixing this, how can I da-da-da-da-da. Everybody's in it. Everybody wants quality of life. Everyone's quality. And there's biotech companies that will actually, with a combination of immunology, will lead to the editing of your DNA. And when you think of the likes of the Georgia Guidestones and how many people they want on the planet, the people that make it through are going to have longevity and some amazing things. You're probably going to have to take a chip if you're going to get that tech. I don't know. I don't want to take a chip. Sorry, I don't want to take the chip. But you might have an option to use some of the science without going full-blown walking internet relay station. But it's fascinating. And this biotech is going to be the big area of flight, I think, in the stock market. There's going to be new Googles and Amazons. But the key thing about this is Google, Microsoft, and Facebook are all stockpiling on super data farms. AWS is the absolute giant in data farms. When people think cloud, the cloud revolution is actually just begun. And I first heard about cloud when I was working in data monitor text department, which is now Informa in the UK in 1999, 2000. When no one knew what cloud even was talking about. We're now 20 years in, and it's only just going to start ramping. The terabytes are going to go through the moon in terms of what is being hosted. And the AI and the machine learning, which is going to continually refine and improve and notice correlations, is going to be huge in terms of this. So it's absolutely fascinating where biotech is going. It's another reason to build wealth and not be one of those cold. Because the quality of life and the length of your age might be great. But maybe if you're an antagonist, like I probably am, of control structures, you'll be taken down anyway. You'll be arrested like that pregnant Australian woman going for a scan for a social media post. Can you believe they're giving warrants to break and forced entry? They broke a guy's door down, one of the other guys in the group, forced entry into his home with a warrant, showing up like SWAT team in the morning to arrest and take all his devices for social media-based activity. The pandemic is martial law, guys. They can do this efficiently and quickly because you are actually existing now under martial law. The rules and regs they have implemented as a result of this COVID-19 are effectively martial law with a health theme. Oh, we've got to have an excuse. Okay, it's a theme. You might make other people sick, or you revolt, you're encouraging dissent. People not to wear masks. This is against the health of the nation. It's martial law. Social media posts and organizing a group to protest legally, Magna Carta rights from the UK, peasants getting an existence so that kings can't just grab you off the street and chop your head off for saying you're not sure about this king, whether he's a good guy, are now being turned over. And how are they doing it? They've created this pandemic, which is in essence given power of government supremacy. You are under martial law, and we are going in. September is done. We're coming into September now. Major market moves occurring. You're under martial law, and the Northern Hemisphere winter will come. Watch for the reheating of this. And with the election, watch with the reheating of the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa, the anti-capitalists, the left-wing Bolsheviks with the election. And as the rioters, I think, are more established and more enabled under the Open Society George Soros funding, I think it's Trump that wins. Because the reason that they go apeshit is because the wrong guy's in the White House. It would be bizarre if Biden is declared winner, is made president, and BLM and Antifa go ape in all the city centers. Hang on. Your guy just made it. The guy who wears masks like you, the guy who says he can't wait for whites to become a minority. It's a good thing in America. There's no indigenous home for Europeans anywhere, not even in Europe. And why? So to me, it's Trump. It spells like Trump gets declared a winner, acrimoniously, back to the election talk. But anyway, going on in biotech will be all of this work, and the cost is going to continue to come down. Health, medical, Internet of Things, 5G, data backwards and forwards, pre-crime, only in terms of pre-dreaded diseases in your bodies analysis, plus engineered DNA. And you've got to worry about engineered DNA, that's not the only thing that gets engineered your future illness out, because you're dealing with a pharma industry that is captive and major thrust of the control structure. Oil and military industrial complex has almost been de-emphasized slightly now. This is a pharma-based attack. Martial law is coming at you through health. Martial law is coming to you through healthcare, through sickness, illness, disease, everything. And for those of you, as I repeat again, go look at the Carnegie Rockefeller seizure of health. And it took place a long, long time ago, but it's been escalating. And biotech, DNA is huge. Internet of Things is huge. Data being shoved backwards and forwards is huge. Clouds, it hasn't just begun. So I don't think Amazon will be disappearing in any great hurry. These oligarchical companies will become 5 trillion market caps, eventually to become 10 trillion market caps in devalued dollars of huge significance. And this is the way where we're heading. And there'll be some new flyers in the biotech space that could outperform Bitcoin for a while. Who knows? Could outperform certain cryptos. And blockchain and cryptos will dovetail into this. Passing data, smart contracts, passing data backwards and forwards, tokenized everything are going to be a massive part of this. And your cash is being killed and phased out because of COVID. Remember, the note carries it more than the plastic card. The PIN numbers you'd put in on the dial pad that everybody touches doesn't pass COVID on, but the note does. Paper, the magic paper that keeps COVID warm. So the cash killing is definitely scaling up. Anyway, let's hear what some of you are saying. By the way, mini series below on the trading side. There's going to be, this is polarizing. You have to get past the great culling because they don't want to release life extending technology to critical thinkers that will be long-winded enemies that will never die. So you've got to make sure we survive this somehow. And wealth is one qualifier. But if you become too big a problem, I think there's going to be this divergence where you are called what I call a divergent character. And conspiracy theories, you'll be labeled conspiracy theorist. You'll be labeled idiots that doubt science, only this is captured science with an agenda, with many honest doctors and honest scientists coming out against it, but not getting the media play. And you've seen in the social, I've had Facebook posts blocked, Twitter post blocks, BitChute links don't get shared, all because they're not captured by YouTube. I have tweets that I want to share under the Black Lives Matter that highlight the plight of Palestinians. The retweets don't work under any form of profile. And I have a number of different Twitter profiles. Repeatedly, they don't work. And I go to a Black Lives Matter, pro Black Lives one, it'll go first time if I try retweet it. So there's all sorts of, that didn't work. Do you want to try? Because they find after you try to retweet something twice, you won't. You'll bugger off. You'll leave it. Oh, I'll come back, I'll do it later. You never end up doing it. Your feed fills up with new bump. So there's all sorts of skullduggery that is working at the moment. Let's have a look at some of it. The enemy is all around, says Gold Silver X. Daniel OJ. Schmuck elections are rigged. Biotech will skyrocket, I think, dunamis. Some of them will. Is it true Russia is making crypto illegal? I haven't heard that. HARP was Eisenhower, says someone. 5G rollout in Melbourne during the night while population in curfew. Fascination. Melbourne, wow, what a place it's turning into. Let me tell you, a white, small population in a big landmass has been totally captured. New Zealand and Australia have turned into the places where these guys are escalating like hell. They're smaller numbers. It's harder to get 500,000 in the street against the government. They have gone absolutely draconian. 5G being rolled out at night whilst the citizens are under curfew. Kind of interesting fact, if it's a fact. I'm reading what other people have said. Japanese population is toast. Yeah, they've got a low breeding rate. Eth and Putin talked in 2017. I saw Vitalik in chat with him once, yeah. Well, Vitalik has spoken about property prices being on the Eth net, and you're having to declare a valuation for paying your property taxes on property. And if you declare too low a valuation, there's an enforced contract where someone can buy you automatically and you're obliged out of the property. Guess who those buyers will be with those fiat coins? Get the goyim off the land, my friend. And Ethereum is happy to be, and it was a Goldberger type guy, surname that is leading, a thought leader at some Chicago University type. So I'm not very happy about the blockchain use on making real-time property prices on your property where you can be enforced sold out of your own home, subject to your valuation. Never mind the fact that these guys can print as much money as they want. How best to spin off income from trading? That's a lengthy discussion. More details in the community. The stocks are selling down until 15 September. It's ghost month in Asia, and the Chinese believe that it's bad luck to invest during this festival. There you have a bit of Chinese ghost month information for you. Assets gold of Putin is all global governments are pro the Zionist cause. He's a controlled opposition, Putin, to, you know, he's holding Syria up. But he's holding Syria up until he decides not to. That keeps everything in logjam. Remember, it's not the victory they want, it's the perpetual strife. Syria is in a low-tempo perpetual war. It means people can test planes anytime they like, whether it's Gaza, they test them on bombs, White Foss, and against Syria. You can have a little heated escalation. You've got a number of test beds that are already good to go. On the back burner, always good to go. Tying up some resources. Someone actually said, I think it was Syria was shocked to be attacked by Americans from thinking they'd come in from Cyprus. They came in from Iraq. Well, there's resources permanently left there because you're in semi-war all over the area and you've established bases. You don't ever want it to be concluded that's done, we can go home. You need it to bleed on because it's a perpetual pipeline of dark money that can go to dark state resources that needs continually feeding. So it's just that squid over the face sucking the food out of your belly and the blood out of your veins. You don't ever want it to finish and that it's done. Okay, now you can go. No. What do you want? Watch the film The Network. They were all Zionist. I'm inclined to agree. I haven't seen the film. Maybe I should watch that. The Network. Let's watch it. The cabal, to be top government leader in a major nation state, you have to be part of the cabal. Otherwise, you get regime changed. You can't be a leader that goes up and independently thinks and says this pandemic is a scam. You're not surviving that. You can't be Gaddafi and say all currencies are crap. I'm going to do a gold-backed currency and we'll trade oil in gold. I mean, he'd been made friends with the West again. He'd been brought back into the community. Next thing you know, boom, he's been dragged by the street by his own people, agents, Al-Qaeda agents, think Mossad, CIA, and being beaten to a pulp and his kids and family being shot. Bad idea. Regime change. You get independent of mind, Regime change. Putin would have been regime changed a long time ago. The Network, good movie. Sandra Bullock, also a man, says somebody. There's a lot of female actresses being outed here. DMC, the tests are DNA tests. They'll take your DNA, give you the vaccine, and then continue to test and monitor how the vaccine is changing your DNA. Oh, we'll be guinea pigs. They're learning, and nothing is complete, and they'll keep testing on people. Let's make a Discord group. We already have a community. Discord is a platform. We have our own private platform, not one that can be hacked by Discord owners. If you think you're mediocre in everything, that is probably due to programming. Hottest man I've ever seen. I think you're talking about me, aren't you? Not Sandra Bullock or Angelina Jolie. Dear. Yeah, no, not too many delusions there. If I put a Discord channel in there, no. What's your take on Bill Gates? Part of the control structure, of course. Part of the control structure. So that's what's going on. Biotech will be super strong in the stock markets. Some of them have all had pullbacks right now. Some of them will be future Googles. Googles and Amazons are going to continue to be Google and Amazons. And there's some tech stocks that will die. And I'll be discussing that in my community. Ones that don't justify their giddy valuations. And that's some fundamental research that I brought in. I'll be talking about them. 5 that will die. Hopelessly overvalued, don't have the cash flow, and deserve to die. And there are going to be many others that are going to continue to dominate and continue to grow. And as currency gets devalued, should be part of your hold your nose portfolio, because they're invariably oligarchical. Good, 354 of you and 166 liked. That's almost half. That means the other 60% wish there was more adverts and all of that good stuff. Good. Thanks for watching. We had a great non-farm. It was very exciting. Lots of swings, gold, silver, DXY. We're going to be covering that. We're going to be watching what's going forward. QAnon is absolutely captured. Sorry, QAnon fans. I do have some empathy for you because you loathe the BLM leftist Marxists. QAnon is captured. Let me tell you something. Someone who wants to help you doesn't mysteriously show up on Reddit and post riddles. They tell you actually what's going down in full, and they tell you how to organize. They don't hide. They might want to protect their own identity. It's a worse fairy tale for adults than Satoshi Nakamoto. It's even less believable. Trump is draining the swamp. Trump, by his own, single man, fighting the control structure, and it's taking some time. He's having to remove people. Come on, guys. Presidents are selected. Nobody gets a chance to run if you aren't already on the storyline. Nobody. Presidents do not have the real power. The permanent state has the real power, and that is long-standing intelligence communities, cartels. They have the power. They have the power, and it plugs. Their mates are in media, Hollywood, Bernays programming, social media, changing your feeds to make you up or down in mood, making sly observations that seem to pop up and pass you a fact. Everywhere you're seeing a message, everything is being orchestrated by AI and machine learning. It's going to become an AI and machine learning world. They're going to know your profile. They're going to know more about you than you know about yourself. They're probably there already. QAnon, that Trump is secretly draining the swamp and is just changing long. I heard QAnon guys that were in my community that were the one moment we had agitators almost in our community that were irritated as hell with us when we shorted Bitcoin in the bear market. They were true believers that were saying Trump had sealed indictments, thousands of sealed indictments. He said that to me in 2016. They're going to be delivered any minute now. They'll all be arrested. Look, there's some things that have happened, but they've got to reveal. They've got to reveal a little bit their game. So I don't see the Epstein thing being exposed as Trump's work. This has come out of victims continually coming forward in the same way as Savile. And only after he's dead, so many people still coming forward The BBC eventually had to cover the news because it was getting into every other news out, and they'd lose control over the narrative. You had so many women coming forward about their abuse and still standing up and still talking and still pushing it through feds and fed agents, continually putting it out. Watch the deception. Everything is so much deception, guys, from a cult that specializes in deception. For anyone not in their cult, you are a mark to be deceived and stolen from, and that is good work. You're doing good work for the cult when you steal. That's why Madoff was the most evil man, because he stole from his fellow cult members. If you're not in the cult, you're part of the mark. You're the marks that need to be gamed. And I'm afraid to say, you've got to build wealth. You've got to build wealth. You've got to trust very little. QAnon is not your friend. It's not going to save you. Trump will eventually disappear into the wilderness like Gore kind of has, like Jimmy Carter kind of has, like George W. Bush. I mean, what George W. Bush done lately? These people aren't working for you. They're just serving a little rotating publicity announcement role. They aren't your government. Come on, man. All of this that's being led through tech, labs, intelligence, media, military industrial complex, pharma. These are the people that are determining your future, not a president of one nation state. Come on, come on. I've seen Pandemic 1 and 2, yes. One day in the future, says someone. I missed the rest of it. The comments are coming fast. They have to prove themselves before being selected, that they will bow before the king. They must show that they've kissed the ring. Go to the Wailing Wall with your little hat. Stock market crash before or after US elections. Well, we've started to see a bit of a spill. Only just joined the chat. We all agree Trump will win, right? I think he will a criminalously just win with all sorts of contests about ballots, mail-in ballots, bad ballots. Trump will be accused of fraud ballots in certain states, Democrats in others, some in both. Some will see video footage of something dodgy happening here, something happening dodgy in another state in a different team's direction. It'll leave you thinking that nothing has been resolved fairly. Corralling of humans into smart cities. Yep, that will come. PMs and cryptos, more sell-off next week than spike. There's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot going on. I don't know if we're done dipping. Bitcoin came very close. I've done 2 head and shoulder draws on Bitcoin. One is made, one just missed being made. So I'm a little bit unsure. Don't forget, it can fall further than the head and shoulders target. But for me, we're in a macro bull. At some time, they're going to have to start printing. So a failed pattern, or a pattern that doesn't go beyond and starts to rally, is also a sign of macro underlying strength. Gold and silver did look weak, finished the week weak. But silver kind of held on to its 26.5 handle for a bit. Just a bit low for us to have stayed in our trade. We didn't feel comfortable with it. Very interesting market coming. The new week's going to be fascinating. Stock market crash, tech crash. Will it continue? We're very bearish at the Spain. If they start reheating, the euro is coming off. Euro was weak. That was leading to the dollar index strength. Euro was weak, very weak, and precious metals were weak last week. But we don't know how long that'll last. Remember, this is counter trend. This is not the macro trend. Printing is the main trend. Printing. UBI is coming for the plebs. UBI for the plebs. Try avoid being them, because you'll be the ones that eventually, once you've come to rely on that UBI, that will be part of those that get depopulated, if there is such a thing. Maybe it's just a conspiracy theory. Who knows? Maybe they don't want 500 million. Maybe someone just bought a piece of land and put some guidestones up just because it was a nice idea and a dream, but they aren't planning to act on it. Maybe it's just coincidence. Bill Gates' dad is a eugenicist. Rockefeller is a eugenicist. Vaccinations introduce all forms of toxicity. More autism has ever come out since vaccination started, etc., etc. Maybe all these things are coincidences. I don't know. But don't trust the deceivers. because they will steal life for you and they see it as good work. There's deception everywhere. Deception is everywhere through state. State is not your friend. The people behind state, pharma is not your friend. You must know what terms you want to engage the healthcare system. I will optionally, privately go and maybe even decide to have my DNA sequenced to see what they find. And they may get that data, and I may try ask for them to delete it afterwards and see what they can do. If there's something that might kill me in my 60s that I can postpone to my 80s or 90s or remove altogether, I'll pay to do it. But I don't want them deciding what they do. I don't want to be a UBI slave where I've got to comply. I want options. I want freedom. I want lifestyle. That's what I'm talking about. And you've got to make the money during this season. And you may have to buy hold your nose investments. By the way, some of these biotech companies, very important, Venrock, the name for Rockefeller, descendants of the original Rockefeller, Venrock, children, multi-generational wealth, Ventures Rockefeller, Venrock, are buying big time into these biotech names that I'm releasing in my premium community from the research that I'm doing. So I intend to drill that. We're going to find HVFs in it. We might take long-term holdings. If I have to jump on Satan's tail to follow them to make the money on what they're going to be doing, I'll do it to make the money for the freedom it buys me. That doesn't mean I agree with all the science. Some of it might be positive. Some of it will also be used negatively. Unfortunately, it's like everything. You can't just make it misery porn, because some of this could make you live longer and be healthier and could be amazing in the right hands, with the right tech. And there are a lot of good people in all these industries. And then there's a lot of people that see the potential for their agendas in this science and tech. And that's what you got to be. You got to be able to understand out of this buffet, which are the poison sweets not to pick and which are the sustaining foods to eat. And that's the big game. And for that, you got to stay awake. Rise of machine learning, AI, and huge data. But people don't understand how huge the data is. AWS, they're building farms, data farms. There's going to be so much information passed in everything you do, from your body functions, everything. Your toilet will analyze your feces and your pee, in no doubt. We'll be feeding data back into your overall health, mood management, everything else. How you respond to bad news events and all of this. You're going to have data spikes, graphs and charts just on you, at every aspect of your function. Heart rate is just a dull, obvious one. It'll be everything, sugar levels, everything, all coming in live to everything you do. Pee in the pool, and your pool will probably rat you out to your device and send the analyzed data to your device. And if you get critical in anything, your doctor will get an alert. You'll get an automatic AI doctor info. You're running light of this, you need more of this mineral, eat that. We can pre-order it for you here. It can be delivered by drone. Drones drop marijuana over Tel Aviv. This is pre-testing Amazon's shit. Where is it being done? In Israel. Drones. All the tech has been stolen and is being cultivated and will end up run out of Israel as if they owned it and developed all of it. Drones, absolutely, Bezos is going to be doing Amazon delivery by drone soon. They'll have warehouses everywhere, and then they'll have short distance drones, long distance drones, heavy object drones. Your delivery will be in there. You'll even have robots doing the delivery and telling you when they're arriving. Stand outside your door in 3.42 seconds. We'll drop it on your welcome mat. All of it's coming. And it's being tested. It's being tested by people. They could make a specific poison that could only kill a specific DNA. They could custom kill something. Somebody could receive something that could custom kill them and not have any material effect on somebody else. Amazon got permits for delivering in the US, doesn't surprise me. They are the government. They run the government, the military industrial complex serves. They're the government. Bezos is a billionaire, oligarchical government individual. It's like people get pissed off that Putin's rich. Well, Bezos is Putin. It's just not officially in the public sector. They're maintaining a line. Absolutely, the generals know exactly what he's doing, and he knows what they're doing. He must be permanently dealing with them. They're his biggest clients in some ways. All the security that they do, of course, they must be talking all the time. Horim says the control structure is going to build the new world government smart city capital in Korea. There you go. They do drone delivery in parts of Tokyo, says somebody. Value your freedom. They will get to choose who they are. They can gene define. They probably have our DNA already. If you've ever done a 23andMe or just been stopped and had a drunk driving test, who knows where they've been stealing data. They leak any data that's supposed to be sacrosanct. You have leaks and hacks. Who's hacking and leaking? Dark state. Most of the time the answer is Tel Aviv, CIA, Mossad, dark state, Five Eyes, all one transnational government. You already are in a new world order. You're still functioning under illusion of national boundaries and nation state. These guys give each other information all the time, cooperation. They make it look like, yeah, the good guys are looking after each other. We're a nice gang. No, they're not. We're sharing information for managing you. That's the game. Yeah, Pearl Harbor to get into World War II. Yeah, many a false flag. I think they used the mask mandatory. Interesting how masking became subservience. Females in certain religions were made masked slaves and everything. It's a very interesting correlation. Now they want you all to wear masks. Very easy to steal DNA, says CBN9 crate, dentists, doctors, needles. I don't know if we need a global world war conflict. The war is against us. World War III is the transnational new world order cooperating against its citizenry. That's your World War III. You're thinking in nation state again. Yes, China will maybe have some conventional war against America and they'll build some body count, thin the herd a little bit. But the truth be told, the biggest and greatest war is the war against you. Citizen, Joe citizen, man in the street. Can we escape? Can you live in a country which doesn't have a co-opted government is the answer to that. They're all co-opted. Otherwise, they get regime change. Guy wanted to have a gold-backed currency and price his oil in a gold-backed currency. That's a totally independent nation-state-based decision. Well, how did the transnational global dark state security services respond to that? He'd just been welcomed back and forgiven the Lockerbie bombing. Next thing you know, his country's been turned into a shithole. His people are worse off, and he was beaten to death, pulled apart. That's how it turned out for him. So if you think as a government leader, you're free to make independent decisions that are good for your citizenry, I'm afraid you're deeply fooled. You're deeply fooled. Your government's not there to make deeply positive decisions to advance your security and bring you good money. They are paid and are owned by other people, and that ain't you. They just have to get you to go through the motion to vote for your own suicide. That's why I say don't vote. Imagine it's a 3D game, and the one rule they don't win is if you don't participate. No one showed up to vote Democrat or Biden. What would happen? They've all planned all this fight. There is no fight. 10 people voted, 5 for the Democrats, 5 for the Republicans. The rest just sitting there seething and saying, what are you going to do? They don't have your permission then to continue with their game. There's a game, I think of it as it's a fantasy game in my head. They give you reveals. They show you where they're taking. It's part of the rules because they have an unfair advantage. You see where it's going, and then they give you an opportunity to endorse them by voting. You continue to say red or blue, you're still playing their game. I spoke to a man that said, we were talking about dogs. I said, dogs can be trained to smell cancer on a human. And cats can crap in a box. Which is more useful? And he was saying, the cats are different. The cats just choose not to play. You can train a dog and it'll do exactly what it's told. It's obedient. Cats do what they want to do. They don't want to smell cancer on a human. They say, fuck that. I'd rather just walk around looking like I own the place. Why don't you all become cats and stop doing what your bad dog handlers are making you do? Do not participate. I think all people have an entitlement to life. So I don't say white lives matter because I don't want to put a white life ahead of any other life. What about Asian lives? What about Indian lives? What about black lives? What about all of these lives? Everybody's life matter. I think it's an obvious misnomer. Everybody's lives matter. But the problem is you have to, within your own community, show that you treat life as sacrosanct. If you can't get it right within your own community, you don't get to lecture other people in other communities about your high mortality rate, especially if 94% of it is brought about by people within your own community. Sort your own picnic out before you start throwing psalmies at other people. It's a fact. To many, it's a racist fact. Do you know, there's 10, saw this post, it's 10 NFL players that have up to 11 children, and one of them has 11 children by 10 different women. And they go through the names of the players, NFL players. 8 different women, 12 kids. 9 kids by 7 different women. And they run through these top. So you give these guys sports star status and money, and there's no discipline. There's no sense of family. There's no sense of lineage. There's no sense of heritage. You're a millionaire. You probably drive 3 Hummers in various colors, and you still don't have a sense of responsibility. At what point? I think that's disappointing. And then you get people like Thomas Sowell, incredible mind, really lucid thinker. So good and bad in all communities we have. Smart speaker, intelligent, refuses to be made a victim, seizes his opportunities, wealthy, speaks well, intelligent. So you get all of this. There's character. King was right. The quality of the person. What do you do when you give him resources? Does he blow it all and make 10 different chicks pregnant and roll around like a rap star? Or does he go into his higher brain and develop value and lucid thinking? We're all capable of all of it. We're all capable and have acted out both. We've got to own all our own sins. We've all done that. Wanted to spread our seed. But where are you now? And what is your journey path? That's what you can take control over. And I'd rather be a Thomas Sowell than I would be an NFL linebacker with 10 different women in my speed dial with 14 different kids from every one of them. Because they ain't getting care, they ain't getting looked after in terms of attention. They may have enough money, and in terms of attention. So it's a funny old world. Got to build the family asset. You know what scares me? Had a discussion with someone. Be very wary any cult that teaches their kids they're different and teaches their kids how to take down and manipulate kids of another perceived ethnicity, religion, or anything else. Beware of anything that represents supremacy in family teachings that is consistent throughout that ethnicity. If you see any ethnicity that preaches behaves, they might say they're the biggest victims, but it actively teaches a supremacy. to their kids and says it's actually good to take down, rip off anyone else that's outside of their cult. You're dealing with Satan there. That's where Satan lies. You want the definition of Satan? Supremacist cult that teaches and inbuilds a victimhood and a supremacist doctrine that actually supports and makes it not only allowable, but okay to commit persecuting type crimes, say fraud, theft, violence, against anyone that is outside what they recognize as their collectivism. If you see that there is Satan. And that is an organization and a cult. A criminal cult, I suspect, guilty of great misdeeds and living off in a pestilent kind of way, like a Trojan pestilent. Watch out. Okay, guys, I'm going to go. Thanks very much. Trading below. Fascinating. September is a huge month for market direction. You've already seen some volatility. Volatility is good when you know what to do with it. When you don't, it causes problems and it causes losses. It too is a polarizing event. There will be opportunities. Believe you me, big tech is going to keep climbing, regardless what happens during this month. The journey in which we're going, the winners in big tech will, and there's, as I say, there's 5 tech stocks to be dumped and even shorted. And I'm going to be discussing those in community from external research that I'm bringing in, because I'm expanding on fundamental analysis as well now. I want to keep positioning our community to make insane amount of money, trading upside HVFs in all markets, but also investing and trading HVFs in real winner future Googles and Amazons. And that's important because 250 grand made 4.8 billion. Let's say you could only afford 25,000 or 2,500, but you invested in a Google when Bezos did. A decade later, not much more than a decade later, that 25 grand turned into 4.8 billion, or 2,500 turned into 480 million. Imagine you did a 2.5 grand investment that turned into nearly half a billion. You'd be halfway to being a billionaire on $2,500. It was more than 1 decade. It was just under a couple of decades. There's a few new ones being seeded right now. You need to be focusing on that. I'm here to tell you and give you a clue as to where they may be. And I'm going to take a deeper dive with the community, and I'm going to highlight the 5 toxic techs you mustn't touch, which is some of the research that I've brought in. And I'm going to highlight the farmers, the ones that we're going to do. And we're going to be tracking them. And we got many eyes on the front watching it. I can still sleep and rest. Other guys in other parts of the world are going to be watching them. That's the value of a community, guys. If you think it's too expensive to spend a little money to maybe make an investment of 2.5 grand that makes you 480 million in 2 decades, then you're not ever going to put your hand in your pocket for anything. You're going to have to take risk, and you don't know the outcome, and there's no guarantees. But let me tell you, the real risk is doing nothing. The real risk is not spending, not investing, and not learning and doing nothing. And I'm here to tell you, whatever you do, do something. Because by taking action, even if you get a negative feedback event, you learn something and you take action again, but you adjust. The process of starting is far more critical. And if you can start in a community, call me, it's my cult, the Francis cult. I just don't preach that it's good to steal from others and that you're applauded from it. I don't preach that other people are inferior to you. I don't preach that. I preach a freedom cult where the wisest thing is to be well-resourced and to look after each other. And those that want to work, invest, and earn deserve the right to be surrounded by others that think the same way. Those that want to work hard. Those are real families with one wife and 1 or 2 children that are well looked after and value discipline. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask and the disciplines you impose upon yourself. Sometimes you have to find an investment I would say I consider my investment worthwhile, but I'm not here to sell. We're talking on Research Sniper. Find somebody else if I'm not your guy, but start and direct it towards where the growth is coming. There's huge growth coming. Have solid family, build solid local community around you, an online community, because you're not going to get all the personality types just because you geographically live in place X. You're going to have a lot of mask wearers as neighbors maybe. So you need local community like your farmers and your supply chain, but you also need of similar mindset. The person most like you might be in Alaska. The best 100 people to be with you who've had similar experiences to you are unlikely to live on either side of you. That's the online community value. That's the power of the internet, turning a force that actually is going to have a lot of control structure, negativity associated into a positive tool for you. Because there's not one thing that's 100% negative. There isn't only night, there's always day. Turn it and use it. They are. The control structure is, so you better start using it for yourself. Shared information. I learned things from the comments here, from what you guys are writing. I don't know what's happening in Tokyo. I don't have eyes there. Someone told me. He's probably not lying to me. I have a reasonable assessment. If he's in a paid community and a friend and we're working to help each other, he's almost assuredly not lying to me. It's useful. That's just nice to know information. Imagine it's about making an investment in the next mega tech, biotech, that's going to be the best people. These insiders I think are gods. They think they're gods. They want to live forever. Trust me, they're investing there. They want extended life and extended life quality. It's one thing. The more atheists they become, the more they think they are gods. That's the great dichotomy. So they want life extension and quality of life. Believe you me, there's a lot of money in there. But they just don't want it for the wrong people. And you're wrong. So have the resources so that you can buy it in yourself and invest in their companies. Find out early where they are. And then you can take some of the treatments, but you can pick and choose that which goes on, and you can research around sane, smart people. Good. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Enjoy your Sundays. It's a good live stream. Thank you for coming on. 350 of you. We've been going for an hour and a half. Book a call. Talk to people like me. Some of them are in the link there. Horim's one of our guys. Devolt, he's one of our guys. Traders, you can talk to these very guys and ask them. They were just like you a couple of years ago. They started learning the route. Okay, have a great one. Thanks for checking in. Bye-bye, bye-bye, and thank you. Free mini-series. All you give is an email address. We do not spam anybody, and we do not give our email to anyone. Assured. Integrity means everything. You will not get, if you get a Pfizer advert for Viagra, it didn't come from the fact you gave us your email address. Nobody has access to your email address. We send one monthly week. Integrity is everything. Play for the long game. Long dough, slow dough is your final dough, which is why investment is as important as trading, because high leverage bites. And that's why we tax into our investment pots. You build your wealth actually through your investment foundation, but you get your faster money through being timed right in high volatility to low volatility events with HVF method. And that can accelerate your road to financial freedom. Bye-bye now. Enjoy your Sundays.